The Korath Empire had conquered 300 worlds. Their warriors stood 8 feet tall with scales like armor and claws that could tear through steel. They had never known defeat in battle. Their generals had studied every species they encountered, learned their weaknesses, and crushed them without mercy. When they found Earth, they thought it would be easy. Commander Thrakvor stood on the bridge of his warship, looking at the blue and green planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space. His second officer, Keth now, stood beside him with a tablet showing information about the humans. "They are small creatures," Keth now said. "Soft skin, no natural weapons, no claws, no scales, no venom, their teeth are flat, their eyes cannot see in the dark." Thrakvor made a sound of amusement deep in his throat. "Then, why do we bring such a large fleet?" "Standard procedure, Commander. We always bring overwhelming force." "A waste of ships," Thrakvor said. "This will be over quickly." The first invasion force landed in what the humans called Nevada. It was a dry, empty place with rocks and sand. The Korath chose it because there were few humans there, making it perfect for establishing a base before the main assault. The first week went exactly as planned. Human military forces came to fight them, and the Korath destroyed them easily. Human weapons were primitive compared to Korath plasma cannons. Human armor was nothing against Korath blades. Human soldiers fell by the hundreds, then thousands. Thrakvor watched the battle reports with satisfaction. "You see," he told Keth now, "they are nothing, children with toys." But then something strange began to happen. The humans stopped running away. Even when they were losing badly, they stopped retreating. Small groups of them would hide in the rocks and fight until every last one was dead. They would attack Korath patrols at night, kill a few warriors, and disappear into the darkness. One Korath squad of 12 warriors was found dead one morning. Their throats had been cut while they slept. No one had heard anything. No alarms had sounded. "How is this possible?" Thrakvor demanded. "We have motion sensors, heat detectors. How did humans get past all of it?" No one had an answer. Then the prisoners started arriving. Korath warriors captured human soldiers and brought them to the main base for questioning. This was standard procedure. Every species broke under Korath interrogation eventually. The pain was too much for any creature to bear. But the humans were different. The first prisoner was a young man named Private James Miller. He had been shot in the leg during capture and could barely walk. 2 Korath guards dragged him into the interrogation room and threw him into a chair. The interrogator was named Drethkor. He was an expert at breaking prisoners. He looked at the small human with contempt. "You will tell us everything," Drethkor said. "Your base locations, your troop numbers, your plans." Private Miller looked up at him. He did not speak. The interrogation lasted 6 hours. Drethkor used every technique he knew. Pain, threats, promises of mercy. Nothing worked. The human sat in his chair and stared at the wall as if Drethkor did not exist. When it was over, Drethkor left the room and found his hands were shaking. He did not know why. He had done this hundreds of times, but something about the human's eyes had disturbed him deeply. "What did he tell you?" Thrakvor asked. "Nothing, Commander, not one word." "Then try harder." "I did try, Commander. I used maximum pain levels. He did not even scream." Thrakvor was annoyed. "Impossible, every creature screams." "This one did not, he just looked at me." "Looked at you?" Drethkor struggled to explain. "His eyes, Commander. There was something wrong with his eyes. They were empty, like he was not really there, like he had gone somewhere else and left his body behind." Thrakvor did not understand. He went to see the prisoner himself. Private Miller was still sitting in the chair where they had left him. His wounds had not been treated. Blood had dried on his uniform, but he sat perfectly still, staring at nothing. Thrakvor stood in front of him. "Human, look at me." Miller's eyes slowly moved to meet Thrakvor's gaze. For a moment, Thrakvor forgot how to breathe. He had faced enemies on 100 battlefields. He had killed thousands of warriors in combat. He had never felt fear. But looking into this human's eyes, he felt something cold creep into his heart. The human's eyes were not angry. They were not afraid. They were not pleading or defiant. They were simply empty, like windows into a dark room where something terrible had happened long ago. "What are you?" Thrakvor whispered. Miller's lips moved. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "I'm already dead, Commander. I died a long time ago. You can't hurt someone who's already dead." Thrakvor left the room quickly. He told himself it was because he had better things to do, but his hands were shaking just like Drethkor's had been. More prisoners were brought in over the following days. Not all of them had the strange, empty look in their eyes. Some cried. Some begged. Some told the Koreth everything they wanted to know. But others had the look, the dead eyes that seemed to see through walls, through time, through everything. These humans never broke. They never screamed. They just sat and stared until they died or were released. The Koreth began calling it the emptiness. They did not understand what caused it. They only knew that when a human had the emptiness in their eyes, there was nothing you could do to them. Word spread through the Koreth forces. Warriors began to check the eyes of captured humans before bringing them back to base. If a human had the emptiness, they were killed on the spot. No one wanted to be in the same room with those dead eyes watching them. But killing them did not help, because the humans with the emptiness did not seem to care about dying either. A Koreth warrior named Grettal captured a human woman during a raid on a small town. She was a soldier, wearing the uniform of what humans called the Marines. When Grettal pointed his weapon at her, she looked up at him with the empty eyes. "Go ahead," she said. "I've been waiting." Grettal hesitated. He was a warrior who had killed many enemies, but something about this small creature made his scales itch with unease. "You do not fear death?" he asked. "Fear it?" she almost smiled. "I've been dead for 3 years, ever since Fallujah." Grettal did not know what Fallujah was. He did not want to know. He let the woman go and reported her as killed in action. Thrakvor ordered a full investigation into the human phenomenon. He brought in scientists and doctors and experts from across the empire. They studied captured humans for weeks, running tests and experiments. Finally, the lead scientist, a thin Koreth named Vethsor, came to Thrakvor with a report. "We believe we understand the emptiness, Commander," Vethsor said. "Explain it to me." "The humans have a concept they call trauma. When their minds experience something too terrible to process, something breaks inside them. They disconnect from reality, from their own bodies, from their emotions. They become walking dead things, alive but not living. This is a weakness." "We thought so at first, Commander, but we were wrong. It is a weapon." "How can madness be a weapon?" Vethsor's voice was troubled. "The humans with the emptiness cannot be threatened because they do not value their own lives. They cannot be bribed because they do not desire anything. They cannot be tortured because they have learned to separate their minds from their bodies. They cannot be intimidated because they have already faced something so terrible that nothing else can frighten them. But they are broken. Surely broken warriors are less effective." "No, Commander, that is the terrible part. The broken humans are more dangerous. They fight without hesitation, without self-preservation, without mercy. They have nothing to lose, so they risk everything." Thrakvor sat in silence for a long moment. How many of them have this emptiness? Unknown, but our observations suggest that the longer the war continues, the more humans develop it. Their soldiers call it the 1,000-yard stare. It means they are looking at something far away that no one else can see. "What are they looking at?" Vethsor shook his head. "We do not know, Commander. Perhaps death, perhaps their own memories, perhaps nothing at all." Thrakvor dismissed the scientist and sat alone in his quarters. For the first time since the invasion began, he wondered if they had made a mistake coming to this world. The Korath had conquered species that were stronger than humans, faster than humans, smarter than humans. But they had never fought enemies who were already broken, enemies who had nothing left to lose. The war was about to change. The second month of the invasion brought new challenges. Thrakvor's forces held the desert territory firmly, but every attempt to expand into populated areas met fierce resistance. The humans fought differently in their cities, using every building and every street as a fortress. And more of them were developing the empty eyes. Lieutenant Sarah Chen had been a school teacher before the war. She had never fired a gun until the Korath landed. Now she commanded a group of 30 survivors in what used to be Las Vegas. Most of the city was ruins. Korath plasma weapons had burned the famous casinos to the ground. The bright lights were gone, replaced by smoke and dust, and the red glow of fires that never seemed to go out. Sarah's group hid in the basement of an old hotel. They came out at night to hunt Korath patrols. They had learned that the aliens could not see well in complete darkness. 3 warriors at the intersection, whispered Marcus, her second in command. 2 more across the street. Sarah nodded. She felt nothing as she calculated the attack. No fear, no excitement, nothing at all. There was only the mission. It had not always been this way. 2 weeks ago, she had watched her students die when a Korath dropship bombed her school. She had held Jenny Martinez, 8 years old, while the girl bled out in her arms. Jenny had been afraid, so afraid. Something had broken in Sarah that day, or maybe something had finally let go. Either way, the fear was gone now. All of it. She looked at the Korath warriors through her scope and felt only a cold, distant calculation. Marcus takes the 2 across the street, she said. I take the 3 at the intersection. Everyone else covers our exit. Sarah, that's 5 warriors. There's only 2 of us going in. I know. The odds. I know the odds, Marcus. She looked at him, and he fell silent. He had seen that look before. The look that said the person standing in front of you had already accepted their death. The attack was fast and brutal. Sarah moved through the darkness like a ghost, her knife finding weak points in Korath armor. The scales were thick, but there were gaps at the joints. If you were fast enough and precise enough, you could kill them. She killed the 3 warriors in less than 30 seconds. She did not remember doing it. One moment they were alive, the next they were not. Her hands were covered in purple blood, and she felt nothing. Back at the Korath base, reports of the attack reached Thrakvor's desk within the hour. 5 more warriors dead. No human casualties. The attackers had vanished into the city like smoke. This is the 4th attack this week in the Vegas sector, Kethnal said. We have lost 37 warriors to these night raids. Thrakvor stared at the map. We have 10,000 warriors in that area. How are 30 humans killing so many of us? They fight without logic, Commander. They take risks that no rational being would take. They attack when they should retreat. They stand when they should run. And more of them have the emptiness. 3 days later, they captured a human man named David Torres. He had been a police officer before the invasion. When they brought him to Thrakvor, the commander immediately looked at his eyes. They were normal, afraid, angry human. Thrakvor felt relieved. This one could be broken. The interrogation lasted 2 days. David Torres was brave. He held out longer than most. But in the end, he told them what they wanted to know. The human resistance communicated through a network of runners, passing messages from group to group. There was no central command. Each group operated independently. It is chaos, Thrakvor said. There is no strategy, no coordination. Perhaps that is their strategy, Kethnal suggested. If there is no central command, there is nothing to destroy. Kill one group and the others continue fighting. Thrakvor ordered massive sweeps through the city. His warriors went building by building, killing every human they found. It was brutal and efficient. But the resistance did not die, it grew. For every human killed, 2 more seemed to take their place. They came from the ruins and the shelters, ordinary people who had lost everything and had nothing left to fear. And more of them developed the empty eyes. Thrakvor received a report one morning that made him stop eating. A Korath squad had cornered a group of human children in an abandoned school. The children, none older than 12, had attacked the warriors with rocks and broken glass. 3 warriors were injured before the squad leader ordered a retreat. They retreated from children, Thrakvor demanded. The squad leader stood before him with shame in his eyes. Commander, you did not see them. They were not children anymore. Their eyes. The emptiness. Yes, Commander, even the smallest ones. They looked at us like we were already dead. Thrakvor dismissed him without punishment. He understood. That night, he requested a communication channel to the Korath High Command. Commander Thrakvor, what is the status of the Earth invasion? We hold our initial territory, but expansion has been slower than anticipated. Explain. The humans are more resilient than expected. They do not break like other species. Thrakvor chose his next words carefully. They have a phenomenon we have not encountered before. When humans experience severe trauma, something changes in them. They become immune to fear, immune to pain, immune to all the techniques we use to control conquered populations. You are telling us that suffering makes them stronger. Yes, the more we hurt them, the more of them develop this immunity. We have begun to call it the 1,000-yard stare. Humans who have it cannot be intimidated, cannot be tortured into submission, cannot be controlled through fear. Then kill them all. We have tried. For everyone we kill, more appear. And the surviving humans are angrier, more desperate, more willing to die. There was silence on the communication channel. What do you recommend, Thrakvor? I recommend we study this phenomenon further before continuing the invasion. We need to understand what we are fighting. Very well, you have 1 cycle. Find a solution. The channel closed. Thrakvor sat alone in his quarters, thinking about empty eyes and the strange, terrible resilience of the human spirit. Dr. Vethsor continued his research with growing unease. The more he learned about human psychology, the more disturbed he became. Their minds are remarkable, he told Thrakvor during one of their briefings, unlike any species we have encountered. Explain it simply. Humans experience emotions more intensely than most species. Love, fear, joy, grief, all of it is magnified. This makes them vulnerable to trauma, but it also makes them capable of incredible adaptation. Vethsor pulled up images on his tablet, brain scans of humans, some normal and some with the 1,000-yard stare. When a human experiences extreme trauma, their brain rewires itself. It disconnects the emotional centers from the reasoning centers. The person can still think, still plan, still act, but they no longer feel the things that would normally stop them. Like fear, like pain, like hope. Vethsor's voice was troubled. They become pure function, machines made of flesh. How do we reverse it? We cannot. The change is permanent. Thrakvor considered this. Then we must prevent the trauma from occurring. Commander, we are the trauma. Our presence, our attacks, our very existence causes the changes in them. The only way to prevent more humans from developing the stare would be to leave this planet entirely. That is not an option. Then you must accept that the longer this war continues, the more dangerous the humans will become. You are not conquering them. You are forging them into weapons. Saracen crouched in the darkness of a collapsed parking structure, watching a Korath supply convoy move through the streets below. 3 vehicles, 8 warriors, cargo that could feed her group for a month. Too many, Marcus whispered beside her. We should wait for a smaller target. We attack in 2 minutes. We'll lose people. Yes. Marcus stared at her. Sarah, what happened to you before all this? You said you were a teacher. I was. What changed? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I held a dying child in my arms and watched the light leave her eyes. She was 8 years old. Her name was Jenny. She was afraid and I could not help her. I'm sorry. Don't be. Jenny gave me a gift. She showed me what fear looks like in its purest form. And when I saw it in her, I realized I never wanted to feel it again. So I let it go, all of it. And now there's nothing left that can hurt me. They attacked the convoy with grenades and small arms fire. Sarah moved through it like a dancer, her knife finding gaps in Korath armor. 2 of her people died in the attack. Sarah noted their deaths the same way she noted the number of supplies captured. It was just information, just data. 2 days later, a Korath patrol found their base. 50 warriors surrounded the old hotel just as dawn was breaking. We can escape through the tunnels, Marcus said urgently. No, they'll follow us. We need to break them here. Her voice was calm. Set up crossfire positions, prepare the explosives, funnel them into the lobby and bring the ceiling down on them. Even if that works, we won't all make it out. No, we won't. Marcus grabbed her arm. Sarah, this isn't strategy. This is suicide. She looked at his hand on her arm. Marcus, I died 3 weeks ago in a burning school. Everything since then has been borrowed time. The battle lasted 2 hours. Sarah's plan worked better than anyone expected. The explosives brought down an entire section of the building, burying 20 warriors under concrete. The crossfire killed another 15. But the Korath pushed through. Humans fell screaming. Sarah fought until she ran out of ammunition, then fought with her knife, then fought with her bare hands. A plasma bolt caught her in the shoulder. She lay in the rubble, bleeding, watching the morning sun filter through the smoke. A Korath warrior stood over her, weapon raised for the killing blow. Sarah looked up at him with her empty eyes. The warrior hesitated. What are you waiting for? Sarah asked. Finish it. The warrior's weapon lowered slightly. He was young, she realized, young and scared. What are you? He whispered. I'm just a teacher. I taught 3rd grade. The warrior backed away from her, his face showing something like horror. He had come to conquer monsters, and instead he found something far more terrifying, an ordinary person who had nothing left to lose. He ran. The Korath took her prisoner. They brought her to their base and put her in a cell near Private James Miller. When Thrakvor came to see her, she looked at him with the same empty eyes that still haunted his dreams. Another one, he said quietly. Another human with the stare. Sarah said nothing. She just looked through him, past him, at something far away. Thrakvor left without asking any questions. He already knew she would not answer. He was beginning to understand that his empire had finally met an enemy it could not conquer. 3 months into the invasion, the war had reached a stalemate. The Korath held their territory but could not expand. Every push into human cities met the same resistance. The High Command grew impatient. They sent reinforcements. They authorized weapons that the Korath had not used in centuries. None of it worked. Thrakvor stood on his command deck, watching another failed assault. His warriors had advanced 6 blocks before the resistance pushed them back. 300 Korath dead, nothing gained. We cannot continue like this, Kethnal said. I know. The High Command is discussing your replacement. Let them replace me. Let them send someone else to lead their warriors into those empty eyes. Perhaps they will understand then. Understand what? That we cannot win this war. Not the way we fight wars. Every human we kill creates 2 more with the stare. Every city we destroy produces fighters who have nothing left to lose. That night he went to visit the human prisoners. There were dozens of them now. Most were in regular cells, but a special section had been built for the ones with the stare. These prisoners did not eat unless forced. They did not speak unless spoken to. They sat in their cells and looked at nothing. Sarah Chin was among them. Thrakvor stood outside her cell for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Why do you fight?" Sarah's eyes moved slowly to his face. "Your war is lost," Thrakvor continued. "Your cities are burning. Your people are dying by the thousands. Why do you continue to resist? Why do you continue to conquer?" Sarah's voice was soft. "You have 300 worlds. Is that not enough?" "It is our nature," the Korath expand. "We grow, we conquer. And it is our nature to resist, to survive, to endure." Sarah's lips curved slightly. "We have been doing it for a very long time." "But you cannot win." "No, probably not. But we can make you pay such a price that you will think twice before trying again." Thrakvor considered her words. "And the ones like you, the ones with the empty eyes, what are they fighting for?" "We are not fighting for anything. We have simply stopped caring about the things that make fighting difficult. Fear, pain, hope. We have let them go, and what remains is pure purpose." "That sounds like madness." "Perhaps, or perhaps it is the sanest response to an insane situation. When you have lost everything, Commander, what is left to be afraid of?" Thrakvor had no answer. He returned to his quarters and sat in the darkness. The next morning, he made a decision that would change the course of the war. He requested another communication channel to the High Command. "I am recommending immediate withdrawal from Earth." The silence was absolute. Then the lead commander leaned forward, his scales dark with anger. "You dare suggest retreat? Korath warriors do not retreat. These are not ordinary enemies. I have studied them for 3 months. I have watched my warriors die by the hundreds against their resistance, and I am telling you that we cannot break them." "Explain." "Humans have developed a defense mechanism that we cannot counter. When we cause them pain, it makes them stronger. When we destroy their homes, it frees them from attachment. When we kill their loved ones, it removes their fear of death. Everything we do to conquer them only creates more warriors who cannot be conquered." "How many of them have this condition?" "More every day. The longer we fight, the more we create. Within a year, the majority of surviving humans will have the stare. We will be fighting an army of beings who have nothing to lose and nothing to fear." "And you believe we cannot defeat such an army?" "I believe the cost would be too high." The communication channel went silent. The commanders were deliberating. Finally, the lead commander spoke. "We will consider your recommendation." The channel closed. 1 year after the invasion began, Thrakvor received new orders from the High Command. "Prepare for withdrawal." The withdrawal took 3 weeks. Korath forces pulled back in stages, destroying their bases as they went. The humans watched them go with empty eyes and loaded weapons. There were no celebrations, no speeches, just silent acknowledgement that the enemy was finally leaving. On the last day, Thrakvor stood on the deck of his warship, looking down at the blue and green planet one final time. Kethnal stood beside him. "The humans have sent a message, Commander." "What does it say?" "Just 2 words, don't return." Thrakvor almost laughed. After everything, the humans had sent a threat. 2 words that carried more weight than any weapon. "They don't need to worry," he said. "We will never return to this world. The High Command may order another invasion someday. They may, but whoever commands it will face the same enemy we did, and they will learn the same lesson. Some species are not meant to be conquered. Some spirits cannot be broken." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. The humans had won. Sarah Chen lived for 20 more years after the Korath withdrawal. She never left Las Vegas. She never married. She never had children. She simply existed, teaching survival skills to new generations and watching the stars with her empty eyes. She died on a quiet night in what had been her apartment before the invasion. They found her sitting in her chair, looking out the window at a sky that no longer held enemies. Her face, even in death, wore that same distant expression, the thousand-yard stare, looking at something far away that no one else could see. They buried her in the desert, next to Marcus and all the others who had fought beside her. Her gravestone was simple. Sarah Chen. Teacher. She looked into the void and did not blink. Across the former war zones, similar graves marked the resting places of the ones with the stare. They were honored as heroes, though many of them had not wanted honor. The Korath never returned to Earth. In the centuries that followed, their empire expanded in other directions, conquering worlds that did not breed warriors from trauma. They spoke of Earth only in whispers, a cautionary tale about a species that could not be broken because it had already learned to break itself. Historians wrote books about the invasion. Psychologists studied the thousand-yard stare and its role in human resistance. But the ones who had lived it, the ones who had developed the stare, never talked about it that way. They knew the truth. The thousand-yard stare was not a gift. It was not a superpower. It was a wound so deep that it could never heal. A sacrifice of everything that made life worth living in exchange for the ability to keep fighting. They had won the war by giving up themselves, by becoming something that could not feel fear because it could not feel anything at all. It was a victory, humanity's greatest victory. But it was also a loss that the ones with the empty eyes carried until the day they died. And perhaps that was what made them truly invincible, not their courage or their strength or their determination. Just their willingness to lose everything, including themselves, for something larger. The Korath had never understood this. Their empire was built on breaking the wills of lesser species. But humans were not lesser. They were simply different. A species that could look into the void of complete loss and find something there that kept them standing. Something that even the mightiest warriors in the galaxy had learned to fear. The thousand-yard stare. The look of creatures who had nothing left to lose. The eyes of the already dead. And in the end, those eyes had saved humanity, not with weapons or strategy or alliance. Just with emptiness. Just with the perfect, terrible peace of having lost everything and discovered that it was not the end. It was only the beginning.